Good evening, this is eNCA Moneyline, your money guide. My name is Sikim Gabadeli. Coming up on the show tonight. Business activity has recorded its slowest start to the year. A request to have South Africa divided into 4 time zones. And could what you tweet or post on Facebook cost you a job? First, your top stories. Business activity has recorded its slowest start to the year in nearly 20 years. This is despite increasing slightly last month to 89.3 points from 88.3 points in December 2014. The Business Confidence Index is compiled by the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry. It's generated monthly to measure the level of business confidence within the local economy. The numbers recorded in January were last seen in 1997. Slow growth, recovering sectors and erratic power supply are set to affect business activity in 2015. The BCI last hit the healthy activity mark of 100 or more points in 2011. Business says different time zones may help alleviate power supply pressures. The Chamber of Commerce and Industry says this could spread the use of power by the different sectors. Sacci says using 4 different time zones around the country will allow Eskom to manage demand. Businesses would operate from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., others from 4 p.m. to midnight, while the remainder from midnight to 8 a.m.
So many of the members that we have already operate with companies that are in different time zones. So it wouldn't really be a huge issue. And the greatest problem would be for those in the Eastern time zone trying to communicate with those in the Western time zone where there could be up to a 2-hour difference. But whether you are talking to somebody and it's 8 o'clock in KZN and it's 10 o'clock somewhere else, really you just need to adjust the times that you are going to be communicating.
The European Commission has increased growth forecasts for the Eurozone to 1.3% this year. Last year, gross domestic product expansion in the region was 0.8%. Oil prices have more than halved since the middle of last year, lowering costs for Eurozone companies and households. At the same time, the euro has weakened by 18% against the dollar as the ECB relaxed monetary policy to prevent deflation. The central bank also wants to keep inflation low, at least close to 2%. It's announced plans to buy government bonds on the secondary market in a bid to pump 1 trillion euros into the economy, pushing prices up. Unemployment in the region is set to fall to 11.2% from 11.6% in 2014.
Europe's economic outlook is, I would say, a little brighter today than when we presented our last forecasts. The fall in oil prices and the cheaper euro are providing, of course, a welcome shot in the arm for the EU economy. Meanwhile, the investment plan for Europe and the ECB's important recent decisions will help also to create a more supportive backdrop for reforms and smart fiscal policies.
The European Central Bank has pulled the plug on Greece's policy to gain funding by putting up its bonds as security. This comes as the Eurozone mulls over plans by the Greeks to negotiate new terms for their bailout plan. Greece's new finance minister has met the president of the ECB to reinforce the bank's backing, but the ECB has cancelled the acceptance of Greek bonds. Over the next few weeks, Greece's central bank will have to inject billions of additional liquidity into its banks in order to protect the value of assets. This puts the country under pressure because the health of its banks is what's keeping its economy afloat. Greek authorities have been courting European leaders to back the new terms of its rescue package. Earlier this week, the Greek Prime Minister said the Eurozone's elitist approach needed to change. Now, the bodies of the remaining South Africans killed in the Nigeria building collapse will finally be returning home later tonight. For many of the families, the wait has been unbearable and has placed a strain on them financially. Not having a South African death certificate made matters worse, and in some instances, the bills still needed to be paid. Joining us from the Waterkloof Air Force Base is eNCA reporter Zikhona Chona to discuss this further. Zikhona, thank you very much for your time this evening. Let's start with the latest update from the Waterkloof Air Force Base. What's happening there now?
Well, Siki, we're just waiting out here. We're expecting that flight to land tomorrow morning, rather, in the early hours of tomorrow morning. We were expecting it to land at around 2 o'clock tomorrow, but it's now they're saying it will arrive at 1:15 tomorrow morning. So we're just camping out here, waiting for craft C-130 to land at Waterkloof Air Force Base. Minister Jeff Radebe is here with his team. He's been leading up the task team in charge of this operation that is repatriating these bodies from Nigeria. So we're hoping that the arrival of this plane will indeed bring much needed closure to the families that have been waiting for so long to bury their loved ones. As you can imagine, now we're going into the 5th month since that building collapsed in Nigeria on the 12th of September last year.
As you say, Zikhona, it's been a long period. Emotional toll can only be imagined on the families, but how have they been coping financially?
I've spoken to a family in the Eastern Cape that is expecting the remains of their loved ones to arrive today. They've basically been saying it's tough. The debit orders are going as usual. And also, I know that the wife of the male that they're expecting to arrive here today, saying she actually visited all the people that her husband owed money to and sort of tried to negotiate with them. Another family whose body arrived earlier on, late last year on the 12th of September, November rather, said that it was, unfortunately, when the disaster happened, it was her husband's bonus month. So those debit orders were able to go through for at least 2 months. But thereafter, the family has to try and make up for that. Obviously, they can't claim for life insurance or anything like that because they don't have the death certificate. The South African government is telling us that they're struggling to get the Nigerian government to certify these people as dead. So therefore, they are unable to issue death certificates to the families.
So what will the next step be then once they have been repatriated here to South Africa so that those families can actually sort out the estates?
We know that from here, the bodies will travel to mortuaries closer to the family homes. Then families will be issued death certificate by the Department of Home Affairs, and only then will they be able to take the necessary steps in terms of going to claim for life insurance and also opening up those bank accounts of those people. People have been saying that the hardest thing for them is basically not knowing what will happen next. If someone has a car, will the car be taken by the bank? So things like that are very worrying for them right now. So today will bring that much needed closure for them, because today all 11 bodies, Minister Jeff Radebe has confirmed that all of them will be arriving here. So they will be issuing 11 death certificates, meaning that families will be able to take the necessary steps, visiting the banks and giving that proof of, yes, this person did die indeed nearly 5 months ago in Nigeria. As to what exactly families will do to sort of pay out that debt, then I think they will take on that thing personally. People are taking the negotiating route, and we know that government is not really going to intervene that much in that issue.
So will there be any form of government financial support?
The people that are arriving today, we know that they have funeral policies that will lay them to rest or assist their families in laying them to rest. We know that the Department of Social Development has been very hands-on, offering counseling to these families. And so they've opened up their doors, saying that if indeed they do need financial support, they are willing to offer that financial support in terms of the burial costs that are involved. We know that there are also children who may have lost their parents in this disaster. The Department of Social Development is also saying that those children must come forward because they don't want the children to suffer just because their parents passed away in a disaster of this nature. So they're calling on people, if families do have children whose parents passed away in this disaster, they're saying, come forward. We don't want these children to be separated. We don't want them to feel that they are at a loss because their parents are now no more.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks for your time today. eNCA reporter Zikhona Chana talking to us from the Waterkloof Air Force Base. After the break, we're going to look into how what you post on social media can stand in the way of your job prospects. You're watching eNCA Moneyline, your money guide. Do stay with us.